In your kit, you will get your piece of fabric with the design on it, an embroidery hoop, a needle to sew with, and thread. Most of our threads come from Cottage Garden threads, but sometimes we use DMC. Either way, they will be pre-cut for you. To set up your hoop, open the screw, separate the two hoops. First, place the inner hoop down, then place your design on top. Place the outer hoop on top of this and gently push it down so that the fabric underneath is taut. Then tighten the screw again. You may need to pull at the edges of the fabric to make sure that everything is nice and tight. To set up your needle and thread, you need to take your thread and you need to separate out how many threads you want to use. For most of our designs, you'll use somewhere between 3 to 1 threads. For demonstration today, I'm going to use 3 threads so that you can see what I'm doing. You then need to pull the threads apart. They might start to twist as you go. And then you have 2 lengths of thread. To thread, there's a couple of tricks. One is to put a little bit of spit onto the end of your thread, like so. It makes it a little bit skinnier. You can also get a pair of scissors and give them a little snip, and that tidies off the end. Push the thread into the needle and then pull out the other side. You're going to leave a tail, and then on this long end you need to put a knot. To tie this knot, I use a knicker knot. It's just a little trick. You make an X on your finger with the thread and the needle. Pinch it together with your thumb and forefinger. Wrap around the needle 1, 2, 3 times. Then pinch, hold the needle, and pull that wrapped thread gently over the top of the eye. Hold on to the thread as you pull to the very end, and there you have a little knot. All done. So now you have your thread ready to stitch. Our kits have a few basic stitches that you need to be able to do, and I'm going to show you how to do them so that you can successfully complete your kit. The first we're going to do is a running stitch. Taking your needle, you're going to find the end of whatever your design is, and you're going to push the needle from the back through to the front and then pull to the knot. Then you can flip your work over, and from here a running stitch just goes up and down, back and forth through the fabric. Down, up, down, up. You're aiming to keep your stitches even, But it doesn't actually matter what size they are, that just depends on how you want it to look. For some designs you might want them sitting really close together and the stitches to be really small. And for others you might want them to be quite large. They tend to look best if you keep the gaps between each stitch even with how big the stitches are. And that's a running stitch. The next stitch I'm going to show you is a back stitch. To complete the back stitch, you start the same way that you started with the running stitch. Only now you're going to go from the front to the back, behind, and then up in front. And then connect the behind stitch to the previous front and just continue that way. Again, you're aiming to make these as even as possible, but if they don't come out even, it's okay. This is just a needle and thread stitching. You're just here to make something that makes your heart happy and to enjoy yourself. Okay, so that is the back stitch. The next stitch we're going to do is the whipped back stitch. You start off the same way again, from the back through to the front, and you're going to complete a back stitch as far as you can go, making sure to only use up half of your thread because we're going to come back over the top. So once you've completed your back stitches, come up right next to your last stitch towards the end. Pull all the way up. Then you're going to go to the other side and you're going to place the needle underneath that stitch and it whips around. And you keep doing that all the way across. It makes your stitches look a lot more even, though they will look thicker. Oop, don't go through your other stitches. The next stitch is the stem stitch. To do a stem stitch, you start the same way as the previous stitches. Up from the back, down from the front. It works in a similar way to the back stitch in that you move forward and then you go back. But instead of connecting right back to where you were, you come to the side and you just pop it into the side there. And it makes this lovely loopy effect. It's a bit more natural looking than the other stitches. Make sure that you don't get your tail caught in your previous stitches. And that's the stem stitch. The next stitch is called the daisy stitch, also called a lazy daisy stitch and a link stitch. To complete the daisy stitch, first come up at the point of the stitch and pull it all the way through. Then you're going to come back down right next to that stitch. Pull through part of the way and you'll be left with this loop. You then need to put your needle up. You then need to put your needle up through the bottom of the petal or raindrop or whatever shape you're trying to make, as well as through the loop. Then when you pull it, it creates this lovely teardrop or petal shape. To secure it, stitch back down at the end of the petal, just below where you first came up, and then you can pull it tight. Do another one. I'm not trimming at the back or knotting before going to the next one. For the most part, the thread doesn't show through. It's just if you're being really pedantic. So back through. Through the bottom of my petal. Make sure it's through the loop. And done. Back down. I also have a flower here. If you do your points in the center, then they will come out looking like petals of a flower. There you have it. The next stitch that we're going to do is a French knot to these here. start from the back, come up to the front, pull all the way through. Then take your needle and thread and wrap the thread around 2-3 times, however many you want, to make the knot as big as you want. Less wraps around, the bigger, the smaller the knot. The more wraps, the bigger the knot. Then right next to where it came in the first place, you're going to push it through whilst holding the thread taut. Push it through, pull it out the other side, and you have a little tiny knot. Same thing again. This time I'm going to do 3. 1, 2, 3, and push it back down through. And the knot, you can see it's just a little bit bigger than the one previous. So let's go crazy. Let's do 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Push it down. Pull it through. You can see that one's bigger again. Next stitch we're going to do is the satin stitch. To complete a satin stitch, you're going to go up and around over and over again until you fill up a space. This stitch is very much colouring in with thread. Generally with satin stitch, you want to try and have only 1 thread or 2 at the most. I've got 3 because it's easier to see on camera what I'm doing. You're trying to come up and go back down as close to the previous thread as possible, as well as on the line. It's really important to think about which direction you want your threads to be going in, because satin stitch helps create movement. So doing it this way, I'm going to be doing small stitches the whole way across, but you can do it the other way and you can have really long stitches going that way. You can choose not to pull the threads taut, and that will make give it quite a puffy appearance. It's okay if you put your needle in the wrong spot. Pull it out, do it again. It's fine. The fabric will go back to looking normal, like you hadn't stuck your pin in there a million times, particularly if you give it an iron afterwards. The next stitch is the leaf stitch. We're going to start from the point of the leaf stitch. And there are lots of ways to do a leaf stitch, this is one of them. Pull it through, then you're going to move yourself down however long you want to make your stitches. And then you're going to work side to side, going up from the tip and down just below that first stitch. And then to the other side. Again, just below that first stitch. And like the satin stitch, the aim is to fill up all the space, but because we're doing it going from one side to the other, it starts to create the spine of the leaf. That's the bit that goes down the middle of a leaf. But again, there are so many ways of doing a leaf stitch. So if you have one that you prefer or that you found that you think is really pretty, then do that, not a problem. In the end, this is your artwork. Notice that my thread's getting a bit tangly, so I'm going to twist it the opposite way so that it untangles. Our last beginner stitch is the star. There are several different ways of doing the stitch. You can go from corner to inner and then work your way around doing each corner, and that looks really pretty. But what we're going to do is we're going to go across. So we're going to start at the bottom, go up to the top, down to the bottom, to the side, across to the side, to the bottom, up to the top, yep, up to the top, to the side, and then down to the bottom and up to the top. You now technically have a star, and it's totally fine to leave it exactly like that with the open space, hand-drawn style or pentagram style. But what you can also do is that you can keep making the star smaller and smaller as you go around, closer to the edge. And as you go around doing this, it fills in some of that space. Until it's all filled in. It looks like a full star. to finish your row, your stitch, cut off your end to move to something else, and you want to actually end it, simply tie a knot at the back by placing the needle underneath the previous stitch, and then that loop that you've just created, going back through that loop, pulling to create a knot. You can do it twice just to make sure, double knot, but you don't have to. Then simply take your scissors and chop. So for our sewing kits, our embroidery kits, we specifically tell you not to iron the design before you've stitched it. The reason that we tell you this is because the ink that we use to print on the fabric disappears when it's heated. So I thought I would show you how quickly and how much it does that. Of course, there are ways to re-put it on, and I'll show you that as well, but let's just have a look at how quickly it gets removed. So as you can see, there is absolutely no more ink left on this embroidery hoop. As soon as you hit it with the iron, it all absolutely disappears. Once you finish your project, this is fantastic because it means that you can get rid of any of the ink in the background and you've just got your beautiful stitches left for people to see. You can use any iron on it. You can even use a hairdryer. You can do lots of things with that. You can use something with a little bit of steam. It doesn't matter. It shouldn't make anything bleed or anything like that, but that's how you finish it off.